You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
This is the CRM Archaeology Podcast. It's the show where we pull back the veil of cultural resources management archaeology and discuss the issues that everyone is concerned about. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 328. And joining me today is Renee in the beautiful state of Colorado.
What's up, everyone?
You're in Colorado right now, Renee, as you were in New Mexico.
Yes, I am. Good old Montrose, Colorado, Western Slope, represent.
All right, and Doug in Scotland.
Hey, everyone.
And Andrew in Southern California.
Oh, no. Today I'm actually coming from Northern California. I'm actually at my parents' house. Yeah, in the East Bay area.
And I'm hailing from Central California, Santa Barbara, to be exact, or Goleta. And to start off today, I'm sorry, but I just have to play this. Okay, just in case, does anybody here know why I'm playing that anthem?
What do we do in the Olympics?
First time in 46 years since the Miracle on Ice in 1980, United States men's hockey team won the gold medal. Woo! Amazing. It was an amazing game. Yeah. It was an amazing game. There's so many elements of it. If those of you that follow hockey has been my life since I was a toddler. I'm telling you, for those that follow hockey, you know, even those that don't, I think in America, everybody knows the Miracle on Ice, right? You guys know about the Miracle on Ice, 1980. Yeah. Okay, Lake Placid, when we last won the gold medal. And so many changes have happened in hockey. And you know, hockey is a very emotional sport, but, you know, we've been through a lot, and we actually lost some great American players, you know, last year in a terrible accident. But through it all, believing we can do it. And also, you know, Canada has won. It was a shocker. So I think we had a good chance, but going into it, you know, who knew who was going to win? And we've had lots of close games where we've, you know, had the hope, and this time came through and won the gold medal for the first time in 46 years. So it's really exciting and just a great day to be an American, and just hearing all the hockey players that were just so grateful. And it was amazing. If you get a chance, watch the game. It went into overtime. It was 1-1. And when, you know, the first period, U.S. scored pretty quickly. Couple minutes in, and then Canada came back in the second period, and they scored, and then it went into overtime. And a couple minutes into overtime, the U.S. scored. It was tremendous, just a tremendous goal. And yeah, so anyway, thank you for listening and allowing me to revel in the success of the U.S. hockey team. So also nothing to detract from the women. The women's team also won their gold, but this one was very sweet because it's been so long since it happened. So anyway, thank you for humoring me. And in that feeling of positivity, I thought we would just use this episode to talk about the positive things about our career and the positive future of our career. I think a lot of us were, you know, as anthropologists, we do a lot of thinking about, you know, life in general. We tend to be more sensitive, I think, than other scientists, just because of the nature of our business. And because of that, sometimes I think we get a little mired down in negativity, and we get mired down in what we don't have. And in order for us to push our discipline forward, you know, in anything, in order to have success, you have to have hope. You have to be positive. the more negative things that you think about, just psychologically, it brings you down and it takes away your energy to make change and to make a difference. And so, I'd like this episode to be a inspiration to everyone that's listening, that in order for us in just even our everyday going out into the field, just think about the people that you work with. When you're working with somebody and they're positive, and you have about 16 miles of survey in front of you early in the morning, would you rather be standing next to somebody who's positive and ready to go and happy, or somebody who's just thinking about what they don't have and how terrible these next 16 miles are going to be? Well, I, for one, would love to have positivity around me. So I think today I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts and, what are the good things about our discipline right now? How do you remain positive in the field? How do you handle when negative things happen and turning them into a positive? And so I'm just going to kind of leave it open in general. And no, Renee, she says she loves being positive in the field. So I'm going to throw it to Renee first.
Ooh, throw me on the spot. Thank you, Heather. I'm in the field quite a lot. I've dealt with all different walks of life, positive, negative, non-emotional. But that's life. You deal with so many different characters. It's just what you're dealt with and you don't know what you're going to deal with. But what I do in the field, I try to remain as positive as possible because we signed up to walk, let's say 16 miles or whatever. Like, I'll use an example, block survey. It sucks. I don't like doing it. I am more of a linear type of person, meaning like a transmission line, just go because I have a goal somewhere. Block, not so much. So when we're on these type of surveys, these block surveys, it's just back and forth, up and down. And when you don't find stuff, it gets pretty, mental health wise, you're like, this is dumb. This sucks. My feet hurt. I mean, you're creating blisters and you're already hitting 10 plus miles within a short amount of time. So what I try to do, and I let people know, I'm like, hey, I know this sucks. Trust me. I don't want to do it. I know you're feeling that way too. So let's turn this into something fun. Like, let's talk or whatever. You should have walkie-talkies or whatever, like crack jokes, stop a little more and just like try to create a family unit just because we're out there by ourselves. And, some people like it. Some people don't. Some people just want to wallow in their self-pity. And I try to make them laugh for the most part. But all in all, being positive really makes the day go by faster. And we have such a good time. And usually what I do, I bring snacks for everybody. That's just my mom mentality. I am not a mom, just putting that out there, but I have that inherent ability to be a mom and just be like, hey, you guys did a really good job, but I have some snacks you guys want to join. And I have some like obscure snacks that make it positive in the field. So I bring like these like chicken chips, which is protein packed, so no end salt. So like you're replenishing your team and yourself and getting protein. So it's like, it's really positive in that sense. Like, it's just that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And there's some people that just don't care and they just want to walk. That's fine, whatever. But there's no point of being negative. But at the end of the day, I make them crack. And that's what it is. I want to see these people crack and be happy and just like come out of their shell. So positivity really helps. Like, as a crew chief, like, it's like, oh, this chick never gets mad. She never gets like angry. What's going on? I mean, I'm pretty hard to like get annoyed like all the way through. I just like try to turn any type of situation into a positive situation, because if you wallow in self-pity or negativity, your day or your 8-day session is going to turn to shit. So that's one of my mechanisms for that.
Yeah.
I mean, Heather, I don't know what you do like when you're in the field.
I'm very similar. I have kind of a mom thing where I like taking care of people. I really do enjoy that. That's part of one of the best things for me in this business is being able to care for people, whether it means, having an influence on hiring people and giving them a good career and, watching them grow their families, getting a new house. I mean, there's nothing that makes me happier than to see people's success in their job, just transitioning over to their life. And it's just a wonderful thing to see. And in the field, a lot of it is just finding what they're doing right. And then when, part of our job is to help them be better. And so using the positivity, finding what they're doing right, and then looking at ways that they can improve, but doing it in a way that's inspiring, that is like, this is great. I mean, you're doing this and this, and, if you did this, I bet you this, this might happen. Or, just giving them reasons why maybe we look at things we do something, or why I'm suggesting they do something differently. So I think, in the field, that's it. The other is, for me, there's going to be there's challenges in any business. The way of, academia is a different story altogether, but and Andrew and Doug can speak to that. But from a business perspective, I love the idea that we are constantly evolving to be better archaeologists, to find ways of generating revenue and demonstrating to the companies that we work within that cultural resources is a viable and revenue generating service. And so to me, that in a system where you have to adjust your business model all the time to be competitive, to me, I find that very exciting. I like that. I like a challenge. And so rather than looking, when we lose, recently we lost something that I really thought we were going to win, and that was disappointing. And sometimes, marketers, at least in my company, they'll say, well, what's our chances of winning this? And for me, I'm always looking at, like, you lose or you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So if I have the time to do it, I'm going to do it. And in fact, we just recently, this last week, they were like, you know what, we're not going to win this, but at least let's just, throw our hat in the ring, right? Let them know that we exist. And we did it, and we actually won the project. You just never know. And so I think having that positive attitude and always looking at how can you win instead of why are you not going to win is the key to success, definitely when it comes to business development.
That's right. Heather, we just had a proposal, we didn't get it either. I submitted it and we lost it. We lost the bid. And I messaged the client. I'm like, what can we do to be better? Why didn't we win? What do we need to do to be more successful? And I don't get bogged down on certain things like that. It's an experience that you're either going to win or you're going to lose. Who cares? You're not going to win everything, but
yeah, it's not wasted time. That's for sure. So the more that you are writing proposals, and for those that, let's say you don't write proposals, but the more that you're writing, let's say you get back a report that you wrote and you spent a lot of time on, and your supervisor redlines the whole thing, and you're like, what the heck? I just spent, well, actually, I think you should be grateful. I think people don't realize how much time and effort it takes to review a report, do it in track changes, especially if you're making comments to explain why you made the revisions that you did. That takes a lot of time. It takes almost as much time or more sometimes than it does to write the report to begin with. So see it as an investment. Mm-hmm. So rather than looking at it as, oh my, I failed here and look at all these red lines, this is an investment. If your supervisor or whoever it is that's, looking at and reviewing your report, if they didn't think that you were worthy of that, they would just make the revisions and move on and not even make any comments. And that's not to say if they don't make comments, that means they don't have any faith in you. It just maybe they don't have the time. But when a supervisor actually goes and they make comments and they make these revisions and give you an opportunity to learn from those changes, that is an investment in time, which means they believe you're worthy of that investment. And so look at it as a positive and
100%.
Look at it as somebody who has faith in you and in an opportunity to learn and be better.
Absolutely. You just don't want to accept all the track changes. They are investing in you to look at what you did to make it better. They want you to be better. So you can, when you write, you're like, oh, this is what I did. This is what I suggest. You look at it and you're like, okay, next time when I write my report, this is what I need to look out for so we don't do it again. It's a positive. Take the criticism. That's part of the positivity realm as well. You're going to get criticized, but turn that criticism into a positive. Criticism isn't here to put you down and say, oh, you're a bad writer or you're a bad archaeologist or whatever. No, it helps you develop and I say level up in your career. It makes you stronger.
Absolutely. With that, let's end this segment. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 328. And today we're all positive, nothing but positive. We're thinking all the positive things about our discipline and about our lives in general. We're frolicking through a field of tulips and lilies. And Andrew, do you want to talk about academia? Positivity in academia?
Yeah, man, that's okay, but I'm just so positive right now, man. Wait, what's going on? Yeah, so, what I find in a lot of this positivity stuff is actually, I will disagree with you, Heather. Here it comes in one spot. Oh, yeah. Oh, beware. I actually think in this instance that academia and CRM are actually pretty similar in terms of the sort of positivity thing and whatnot. It's as you and Renee were talking, it was reminding me a lot of interactions I have just in the academic world. What I would say, one thing that I can kind of lean on that I find to be positive in the archaeology world are simply the personal relations and the colleagues that I've had over the years, like over the decades. Because if I think way back to when I first got into this, I think I've touched on this before in here, but I was a double major. When I first started in college, I was a theater major, right? I was really into drama and all that kind of stuff. And I have to say, the one thing that drove me into archaeology was the people in theater, because the people in theater tended to have that cliche of like kind of self-centered, learning just about themselves, tended to not necessarily be interested about the larger world around them. And I find in archaeology, it's just full of people. It's lousy with people that are interested in the larger world, where you can have like super interesting conversations. And that to me it just like rejuvenates my batteries, archaeology type people. Now, not all of them, are like this, but the percentages are great. And over the years, I mean, we've all had colleagues that maybe are a bit difficult or whatever, but on the average, they are interesting, awesome people, and I feel just super fortunate to have worked with the dozens of people at this point, in archaeology, if not hundreds, that I've had just such interesting conversations with and have really aided me for myself. And this gets very philosophical, as we talk, but that it even helps me define myself as, oh, I am an archaeologist. And that's something that's positive too. I think the ability to define yourself as an archaeologist, it makes you feel cool. It makes you feel like you're doing something that is beyond yourself. And that is something that I think we might forget, but a lot of jobs, maybe most jobs, they don't get to have that, right? They don't get to have that definition of self where you're just like, wow, I do this thing that'll go on, after I'm gone. I was a little piece in this literal puzzle of life, that I helped add to. And that kind of stuff, I know half of it sounds horrendously cliche, but it's honest and it does help you, in the dark times. You guys spoke earlier about like sense of humor. I tell my students the two things you need in archaeology is tenacity and a sense of humor. And so in terms of positivity, that doesn't mean that you just tell jokes. You don't just go, oh yeah, so two crocodiles walk into a bar. It's the ability to sort of see the light in intrinsically difficult situations. So if you actually have that positive gene, it only helps in the field. So that's my 2 cents.
Could I interject here? I'm going to flip it on the academic side, of course. In terms of like in classrooms, but I'm going to use my experience. It was a negative situation. And it turned into a positive situation. But I had this goes for not just in the field, this goes in the classroom as well, settings, because there's a time as a student, you're bogged down. You're like, am I good enough to be here? Why am I doing this? I'm shit. I'm never going to go anywhere. And that's not true. You're just stressed out 1,000%. So in grad school, when I was in grad school, I had a professor, I was a theory class, that told me that I'm not good enough, my writing sucks, and I don't deserve to be in grad school. Now, that was a situation
I'm
where...
sorry I said that, Renee. I'm sorry I said that. It's just...
Such a piece of shit. Oops, sorry. No, I knew it. You ruined my career, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, I did.
But that really bogged me down, and like that gave me a lot of like negative like energy. And what I did, I'm like, that's not going to stop me. I proved that person wrong. I turned it around and I like started pumping out stuff. This is what happens in grad school. You have no sleep. Number one, I was like on fumes when you have 4 classes and you're working. Yeah, you don't know what you're doing. So what I did, I'm like, you know what? I am good enough. I am going to prove it wrong. And I did. I just started, pumping out quality papers, and that really changed someone's attitude. But that made me feel empowered because I took someone that was such a toxic comment to make to a struggling student who they don't know if you have mental health issues or not. It doesn't matter. But I turned that around and I'm like, I'm not going to quit because this person made me feel like a piece of crap. Hell no. And I turned it into a positive, because if you keep wallowing in that negativity, you are going to go down a trajectory that is not healthy. And it makes you feel that you're not worthy. So, I mean, academia has its own toxic environment. We all know that. But I think professors in general need to be a little more sensitive to students that, that they see are going to be, these up and coming, like blossoming students, because everyone was in that situation at one point in time in their life, and you have to give some grace. So that made me a better person and how to treat people. I turned that negative into a positive.
I think that's actually a really great point. And throughout the years, I've noticed a decent amount of people who have told me a very similar story of like the professor who said, you're never going to make it. And I find that really sad. I don't think I've ever done that. It would certainly not be something that I would mean to do. And I would say, if anybody ever tells you quote, you're never going to make it, really never? Really? Right. So I would take that moment, anybody listening to this, and be like, look, that's just like it's a very odd thing to say. It doesn't really even make sense. There's no real reason to think you are never going to make something. It could be more correct to be like, oh, this paper is not as good as it should be, and I'm not here to make something overly positive. If you wrote 1 page of a 10-page paper and turned it in, I'm not going to be like, hey, that's a great start. You're going to have to hold up your side, but there's no reason to say never, you're never going to make it. And, while Renee, you said that, academia can be a bit toxic. Hey, CRM can be a bit toxic too. Right back to my overall sort of thesis of like, it's all the same. I will.
We're not wrong.
Yeah. Watch this. I'm going to call out something I noticed. And I hate the term call out.
Oh, we're keeping it positive, Andrew.
I know, but in terms of where I see sort of the opposite of positivity, where this ideology of being positive might help, is on like social media posts and stuff. They tend to be so like, if I look at something like Archeo field text, I'm like, good God, this is negative.
It's insane. I think it's sad. I wish people would really think about what they're putting.
Yes. And the influence to others. You're like, oh.
Yeah. That's the main thing, is the influence to others. And, I'm having been in this business now for, 2 decades. I'm telling you, the people that have the positive attitudes, those are the ones that are successful. It's just very simple. Have a positive attitude. In anything that you do in life, people want to be around positivity. Even the Eeyores in life do want to be around positivity. They
totally
do.
True.
And
totally true.
I think, to me, it's fine to question things, because in order to make change, you have to look at it, but you can't get mired down in it. And that's, I think, where sometimes we take the wrong turn, or where we do take the wrong turn. And, especially in the last year, where all this talk about, streamlining Section 106. And I actually am very excited about it. I think it's been a long time coming. We did talk about the hearings about the Section 106, and we had a whole episode about it. We'll put it in the show notes which one that is, because we did a really great episode and kind of a look at it through the whole hearing. And there's a lot that does need to be changed with Section 106. And this is an opportunity for us to do it. It has not been revised or touched in 2 decades. it needs some refreshment. And when you have, when you have documents like that, statutes, they are not all that good at evolving with the changing times. And so you do need revisions. And this is an opportunity for us to revise in a positive way. I mean, to me, it's really exciting that this has been opened up. This is not to gut it. This is opened up to revise it. And you have people that have been doing this in the hearings. And again, we'll put that in the show notes. There's not one person that sat and said, Section 106 is perfect the way it's not.
Right.
It needed revision. And now we have the opportunity to do that. I think everybody should be looking at this as an opportunity instead of, perpetuating the fear mongering. So, and it's also,
exactly.
It's also an opportunity for people that are early in their career, even though maybe it's not something that you can change, but this is an opportunity for you to watch the process. And like no other time since I've been in this business, have you been able to watch the process? We're in a time now where everything is posted online, where you can see hearings, you can watch it. 20 years ago, that wasn't really the case. Yeah, it existed, but it wasn't so prevalent. So now there's an opportunity for you in real time, in a practical way, to learn about how these statutes are created, how they're revised, the spirit behind them. Because in order for you to apply these statutes, you need to understand the spirit behind the statutes. And so this is such a amazing classroom. And that's not the intent of these revisions, but I think anyone, actually in any point in their career, should use this as an opportunity to learn and to learn even more, to learn from all different aspects of our business, learn from the SHPOs and their perspectives, be on LinkedIn, start following the different SHPOs. You'd be shocked at how much I shouldn't say shocked, but I think you'd be surprised in how much you can learn from just following their pages.
Yeah.
100%. There's a wealth of information from LinkedIn. And so I don't think it's underutilized in my opinion, but if you want to know what's going on, LinkedIn's your primary source. It's there. Facebook, forget it. LinkedIn, that's where it's at. That's my 2 cents on social media.
Yeah.
Doug put a comment in our notes saying that it's been, Doug, why don't you speak up?
No, so I was thinking, I jumped in a little too soon. It's been 3.5 decades since they've done the National Historic Preservation Act, but you're talking about just the regulations, which
Yes, correct.
It's been about 2.5 decades. I think
it's been over 2 decades.
1990. Yeah,
there's always one in the crowd
when
that
they
has
started
to say.
it. Yeah. I think it was 1999, then they finished it in 2002 or 1, something like. It's a long process.
It is
on that, but yeah,
it's not something that's going to happen all the time. But this is an opportunity for many people that have never watched this process to learn from it, and to also not just learn the process, but to understand the statutes even better, because these are conversations now that people are having, because we have to have those conversations in order to make the revisions. And so, you're going to see these conversations more than you would have ever in the last 2 decades. And because of that, you can learn from them. Sit back and learn. I think a lot of people, here's coming from somebody who's on a podcast right now, but there's a lot of us that have too much to say. There's a lot of people that just want to listen to themselves talk instead of really try to listen to what others, and here now I'm being negative again. I'm sorry. But flipping that over to the positive, it is better to just sit back, listen, and learn. And
I do have a thing on, let's flip on the positivity in Section 106. I know there's been talk about, there's a lot of people in general, this is a whole general statement, that, we're getting rid of Section 106. Absolutely not. This is a time for change, and there's positivity. We will have jobs. I'm going to reiterate that. There will be jobs. Section 106 is not going away. This is not the end of CRM or archaeology in general. This is to revise, to make it better, and we will have jobs. Just so all those people out there in the world, we're employable still, but we're going to have jobs. I'm putting it out there again. You will get paid.
Yes. And with that, we'll take it to the next segment. See you in a moment. Welcome back to CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode number 328. And we have a certain member of our group that has been a little quiet. And I will introduce him as I would say my number one favorite Eeyore. You really are, Doug. You're my favorite Eeyore that I've ever met, honestly. And I'm really interested to see and hear your take on our positivity episode.
All right. Well, to live up to that introduction, I think you guys need to embrace the negative more. And by that, I know, but we're going to get there. You just got to give me a minute to rant and rave for a little bit as I do. But Friday, maybe Thursday, days, it's a long week. I was just sort of thinking back. So bit of background, UK Archaeology, the trade body is looking to put together a standard of health and safety. And there's a whole backstory to that. I won't get into it. It's not that important. But part of that is I'm drafting up the sort of first hack at the standard. And it's based off of what I've been sent from one of the companies. And so when I say embrace the negative is I don't think people think about how bad it has been and how good we've gotten it so far and how good it could be in the future. But embrace the negative is I was looking back and what the training they give to their staff is miles. I don't know. I'm going to throw this out to Andrew, who probably knows something nautical. I don't know, nautical miles, something that's longer than a mile. Like this.
Go with light years.
Light years. Thank you. See, this is why we have Andrew on the podcast for things like this. Light years, which is, I don't know, several 100,000 miles or something like that. Light years more advanced than what I got. And I mean, yeah, okay. So I'm, roughly about 20 years in, not quite, but we're getting up there, about 18 years into CRM. And so when I started, there was no training. There was I did not receive any health and safety training whatsoever. I worked for what I consider a very good company. And I mean, other than hey, we have a first aid kit. It's there. It's the green box in the back of the truck. Don't die sort of stuff. And then you go to the UK and there's a test you have to take to be able to get a card. This doesn't exist anymore, but you had to do a health and safety test, which again was a complete joke because it was a general health and safety test and it wasn't anything particular to archaeology. And you just had to memorize questions and you passed it. And yeah, it was fun learning a few things about different fire extinguishers and the different types, but mostly completely useless. And I got to see what one of the companies is now doing and their induction on health and safety. They're covering legislation, which is amazing. It's not just yeah, you do this to save yourself. It's why you do it. It's the background. It's oh yeah, 1972, 167 miners died and this is why we do this and sort of things like that. And it is light years ahead of what we were, where I started with. Honestly, I probably learned a little bit there reading their materials as well, things I probably should know too. I think about that. Everyone's oh man, CRM sucks, academia sucks, yada. But we are light years ahead of what we were decades ago or a decade ago, 2 decades, wherever time period you want to put it at. It's better now than what it was, be it pay, be it standards, be it health and safety, be it knowledge. I don't know, pick anything. I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find an area where we've regressed. And I think we could definitely want more. And that goes back to what Heather was saying at the beginning is, trying to aim for more. We're not looking at toxic positivity here where it's oh, the world's going, burning around us and we're all cheery. There's that little meme with the dog and everything's fine. But it is I kind of feel we don't sit around, weirdly, for archaeologists, we don't sit around and consider the past enough. I've always done this. Like when people ask me this question, they're always like, oh, you're giving tours, you're doing public engagement. And usually this pops up at least once a year, once every 2 years. I get like, oh man, if you could live in the past, when would you live? And my answer is always never. Absolutely no effing way would I ever live in the past. Like we are progressing. We have progressed so much further. And like it may not feel like it, and it's not always a straight upward trajectory, but for the most part, we're doing better. We no longer die of dysentery. Like, I mean, I'm thinking about things like, I had my appendix rupture a couple of decades ago. I would be dead. Well, okay, maybe a century ago. We've gotten slightly better, but I exaggerate a little. But I would not be around. Like, I would have died back then. Tonsillitis, I had my tonsils out again. I would have been dead with that probably in my early 20s. Appendicitis, I was in my early teens. Like, my brother would have been alive. He got a blood infection from a scratch from climbing a tree when he was like 12. Like, he would have been dead. Like, yeah, I mean, we are living in like the best timeline here, as it were. It could always be better, but like, I don't know, if we're talking about like positivity, I think we really do have to sort of embrace the negative aspects and realize that like, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it actually was a lot worse. Things are getting better, even if they don't seem like it.
Yeah.
I just want to say quickly, ladies and gentlemen, Doug Rocks McQueen. Like, that was awesome. Look at you. Look at that. Knocking it out of the park. Quotes like, archaeologists don't look at the past nearly enough. So true. Nicely done, my friend.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Oh boy. Now I just lost my train of thought and what I was going to say, but it is true that we do need to realize, I think, part of the problem is, which is kind of baffling to me, is that we don't look at the past enough to realize, how far we've come. And I think a lot of it is because we just have this social media environment now that it kind of evens out everybody's opinion when it really shouldn't. Like the people that they're sometimes, like I said, sometimes you just need to sit down and be quiet and listen. You just don't know enough. But in the internet world, it's hard for people to understand who you should be listening to and who you shouldn't. And so, the one thing that I would like to encourage, especially those that are new in the business, we have all these, like Doug was saying, there's so many protections for different groups of people. This concept that, some people may not have as many opportunities as others. There are so many statutes and laws out there to protect people that might otherwise be prejudiced against, that, this is more than has ever been in the history of our discipline and in work in general. And so, it really is a good thing. You're not going to be able to change laws and statutes. You can, not that you don't have any voice at all. Of course you do have voice, but in your everyday, to have that negativity and to see yourself, even if you don't express it outwardly, if you are allowing that to pull you down and to make you feel, less than positive about your everyday work, it's just going to inevitably show, even if you don't talk about it. And it will also hinder your performance. So just, I think people need to learn how to categorize what are some things that do need to change and how can I do that to make change? But at the same time, learn that every day you go to work, you need to go in just for your own mental health, your own performance, to go in with a positive attitude and to have hope that every day you're going to have a great day. You're going to have a good time out there. You're going to do something in your career that's going to benefit. Even if you don't find anything in the field, but you were there with someone and they were having a bad day, you uplifted them. There's always an opportunity for you to be better and help others be better. And so, you have to, I think it's really important, and it's the sign of somebody who is mature professionally that can separate those two things, what you can change and should change, and your everyday behavior at work.
Couple of things, as always. One, Heather, come on, positivity. You can change laws.
Yeah, no, you can. I'm just saying separate the two. Don't go and say, oh, woe is me. I know I have to go. I don't know if I can because these laws stink. It's like, yes, you can make change, but you got to categorize.
I'm joking with you, Heather.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to throw out a slightly different opinion, and this kind of fits back with the whole like embracing the negativity. Is like I slightly have a slightly different view, or maybe a very totally different view, and that like so this is for me personally, and maybe this works for some listeners, or maybe like I am just the odd person out. Wouldn't be the first time. Like some days are gonna suck. I think you should slightly embrace the suck because if you go in with every day being a great day, then there's no difference.
Agreed.
So like I get where you're going with Heather and the positivity. I slightly take it a different way, and I go within like, sometimes you need to do a little wallowing in like, today was an absolute shit day, but that means your average day the next day is going to seem so much better. I think I go with it's not that there's not going to be, I guess, gosh, I'm trying to figure out a way of describing this, but in a way of saying, one view is always try to think positive and go in. I think sometimes it is helpful to think negative and actually have a down day because it helps you with your up days. But that might just be me personally. I think this is the great thing about our podcast is different opinions and different views, so you can take away what works for you.
I actually totally agree with you, Doug. Yeah, going in with a Pollyanna rose-colored glasses, today's a great day. There's no reason not to feel what you're feeling. Absolutely. Like you cannot move forward and improve yourself if you're not able to identify those negative aspects, whatever they may be, So I agree with you. It's just like in sports, some days you're going to go out there, you're not going to perform. And it's going to be a really sucky day. And like you said, embrace the suck, military term, and find ways, what can you learn from that suck? Even if it does mean that you just got through the day. That's great. My concern is when we have people that are continuing in this business and then are not embracing the suck, but embracing that life sucks. And that there's two totally different approaches there. To say that life sucks is almost just giving into that instead of coming across something that it also shows an assumption that things can't change, right? So if you're saying life in general sucks, then you're almost giving up on the possibility that it could be better. Instead, that's different than embracing the suck. So you've encountered something that's negative, and I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to internalize it, and I'm going to spit it back out in a way that is going to help me grow. And I'm going to digest it. I'm going to figure out what can I learn from it. And then I'm going to turn that around and I'm going to grow, because failure, nobody is tremendously successful without tremendous failure. You can't be tremendously successful. And I don't mean successful people give you things. I'm just saying personally successful. Nobody is personally successful without significant failure, because that's the only way you can learn. And so looking at failure, looking at some things that may not be exactly how you'd like them to be as an opportunity to learn and grow is definitely going to, help you be better in the long run.
Yeah, Heather, I totally agree. And, what you're talking about is like maturity, right? Just the ability to be mature about all these kind of stuff. And that leads to balance. And I would say that leads to leadership, right? That's where leadership is. All these people who bitch on Archeo field techs, those are not leaders. Like, would you follow those people anywhere? Of course not. So, I think positivity does have that aspect, in the balance of things, and ultimately it makes good leaders.
I would just like to end with like, Facebook is not reality.
Yes. Yes.
But also like,
What?
Someone said this best, because you guys have Archeo field techs in North America. We have Badger in the UK, and I haven't been on Facebook in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I go on about once every 6 months to check messages.
I go on Marketplace.
To then respond to people and be like, hey, yeah, sorry, I haven't responded in like 4
Yeah.
months. I don't use this. Here's my number. Like, all that sort of stuff. But like, honestly, my mental health is so much better for it. Like,
Totally.
and the problem is it's artificial as well, because
Mhm.
people, you will see on Archeo field techs, like, people have positive posts, but those don't get pushed up through the algorithm. People don't respond. Like, if you are on some of those Facebook groups, you're going to have a pretty warped negative view of the world.
Sure.
If we are talking about like positivity, and like the one thing you could do to make your life more positive is to like literally delete your Facebook account. It's going to do it.
Yeah, I'm more, as far as this Facebook thing goes, I understand that I'm more concerned about the person ingesting the Facebook, just like you're saying, Doug, than the person who's posting on it. Those that are posting, maybe that person posts once a year and then they decided they're going to post something negative. And it's, it is what it is. Would I do it? No. But, that's their prerogative. But
Right.
it's more ingesting it, because you don't realize that these are all individuals, and then all you're seeing is this negative. And if you're new in this business, if you're a student, unfortunately, it really does impact how people see the business. They don't know. They're doing their best to, they find something that says Archeo Field Tech. They want to be a field tech. And then, they start reading these posts, and some unfortunately don't go out and try to get other kind of modes of information. And I know I've heard of people that have decided not to go into it because they've, predominantly used this mode of communication as their source of information for those that are in the field net presently. And do they want to do that? And so I just, yes, I think that people that are posting have a responsibility, but also I definitely heed those that are, take heed and understand that it's just a microcosm, and it's a very skewed slant on really, the way our discipline runs. So.
But yeah, I mean, people who post negative on those pages, I would say don't listen to them, because they have a couple bad experiences and they're jaded and they're salty. That does not represent the whole of archaeology in terms of CRM or academia. At the end of the day, as individuals, we are ambassadors for positivity. We are ambassadors for what we do for our field. We want people to level up, as I said before, and move forward in this field. If this is your passion, you keep going. Don't let one person be negative and ruin your day. You are the master of your destiny, and you have to figure it out. You're positive, then good things will happen. You got to I'm going to be all philosophical, put that out into the universe and all the positivity, and it will come back, because you attract negativity if you're always negative and no one wants to be around you. And then you don't have jobs. End of my rant.
Well, with that said, everybody go into the world, think good thoughts, believe that you can make a difference and you can be a difference, and you can, enjoy being an archaeologist. So many of us, there's so many people that wish they could be. We're in an enviable position. And with that, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the field. Goodbye.
See you guys next time.
Keep on rocking in the free world.
Well, I'm just going to go with a simple goodbye.
Goodbye.
So positive.
That's it for another episode of the CRM Archaeology Podcast. Links to some of the items mentioned on the show are in the show notes for this podcast, which can be found at www.archpodnet.com/CRMArchPodcast. Please comment and share anywhere you see the show. If you'd like us to answer a question on a future episode, email us. Use the contact form on the website, or just email chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Support the show and the network at ArchPodNet.com. ArchPodNet.com/members. Get some swag and extra content while you're there. Send us show suggestions and interview suggestions. We want this to be a resource for field technicians everywhere, and we want to know what you want to know about.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. The Archaeology Podcast Network's chief editor is Rachel Roden. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy. Our social media and newsletter coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht. The APN was founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle on December 1st, 2014. We're supported by our amazing podcast hosts, many volunteers, and listeners like you. Check out membership at www.archpodnet.com/members.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.